The Cremation of Sam Magee. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights, they've seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam Magee. Now, Sam Magee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but this land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell. Though he'd often say in his homely way, I'd sooner live in hell. It was on a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold. Through the parka's fold it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes would close, then the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam Magee. And that very night, I've lost it. The only one to whimper was Sam Magee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, the dogs were fed and the stars overhead were dancing heel and toe. He turns to me and, "Cap," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess, and if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he sounded so low I couldn't say no, and he said with a sort of a moan, "It's the awful cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet, 'tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of an icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains." Now, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. We started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on his sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam Magee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death as I hurried horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brains, but your promise true, and it's up to you to cremate these last remains." Well, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. And in the long, long nights by the lone firelights, while the huskies round in a ring, out their woes to the homeless snows, God, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. Yet on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low, till I came to the marge of Lake LaBarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. So I looked at it, and I thought a bit. Then I looked at my frozen chum. "Then here," said I with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found lying around, I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared with a blaze you'd seldom see. Then I burrowed a hole in the glowing coals, and I stuffed in Sam Magee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. The heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled off my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak came streaking down the sky. Now I don't know for how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and danced about. There again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but bravely said, "I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked." This time I looked, so the doors I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. He wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm." Yes, there are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights, they've seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam Magee.
Oh, I love it. That's one of my faves.
And the next one is the shooting of Dan McGrew. A bunch of the boys were hoofing it up in the Malamute Saloon. The kid that handles the music box was hitting a jagtime tune. At the end of the bar, in a solo game, sat dangerous Dan McGrew. While watching his luck was his light of love, the lady that's known as Lou. When out of the night, which is 60 below, and into the den in the glare, there stumbled a miner, fresh from the creeks, dog dirty and loaded for bear. He looked like a man with a foot in the grave and scarcely the strength of a louse. Yet he tilted a poke of gold dust on the bar and called, "Drinks for the house." Now there was none could place that stranger's face, though we searched ourselves for a clue. But we drank to his health, and the last to drink was dangerous Dan McGrew. Now there are men that somehow just grip your eyes and hold them hard like a spell. And such was he, and he seemed to me like a man who'd lived in hell. With a face most hair and a dreary stare of a dog whose day is done. He watered the liquor in his glass. The drops fell one by one. Then I got to wondering who he was and figuring what he'd do. I turned my head, and there, watching him, was the lady that's known as Lou. Then his eyes went rubbering round the room, and he seemed in a kind of daze, until at last the old piano fell in the way of his wandering gaze. The ragtime kid, he was having a drink. There was no one else on the stool. So that stranger just stumbles across the room and just flops down there like a fool. And in a buckskin shirt, glazed with dirt, he sat, and I saw him sway. Then he clutched the keys with his talon hand. My God, but that man could play. Were you ever out in the great alone when the moon was awful clear, and the icy mountains hemmed you in with a silence you most could hear, with only the whoo of a timber wolf as you camped there in the cold? Half-dead thing in a stark dead world, clean crazed for the muck called gold, while high overhead in green and yellow and red, the north lights swept in bars. And you've a hunch of what that music meant, of hunger, the night, and the stars. But hunger not of the belly kind that's banished with bacon and beans, but the gnawing hunger of lonely men for home and all that it means, for a fireside far from the cares that are, four walls and a roof above, and oh so crammed full of cozy joys and crowned with a woman's love. A woman dearer than all the world and true as heaven is true. God, how ghastly she looks through her rouge, the lady that's known as Lou. Then the music changed, so soft you scarce could hear. You felt as if your life had been looted clean of all that once held dear, that someone had stolen the woman you loved, that her love was a devil's lie, that your guts were gone, and the best for you was to crawl away and die. 'Twas a crowning cry of a heart's despair, and it thrilled you through and through. "Ah, I guess I'll make it a spread misere," said dangerous Dan McGrew. Then the music almost died away. Then it burst like a pent-up flood, and it seemed to say, "Repay, repay," and my eyes were blind with blood. A thought came back of an ancient wrong, and it stung like a frozen lash. The lust awoke to kill, to kill. Then the music stopped with a crash. Then the stranger turned, and his eyes, they burned in a most peculiar way. And in a buckskin shirt glazed with dirt, he sat, and I saw him sway. Then his lips went in a kind of grin, and he spoke. And this went out, and two guns blazed in the dark. A woman screamed. The lights went up, and two men lay limp and stark. Pitched on his head, pumped full of lead, was dangerous Dan McGrew, while the man from the creeks lay clutched to the breast of the lady that's known as Lou. Now, these are the simple facts of the case, and I guess I ought to know. They say that stranger was crazed on hooch, and I'm not denying that's so. I'm not as wise as the lawyer guys, but strictly between us two, the woman that kissed him and pinched his poke was a lady that's known as Lou.